Well, at first it was reported that 16% of the electorate turned out for the primaries. And I told you I was going to announce it for the first time here on my program. I did not participate in the primaries this time. And it's probably the first primary I haven't participated in since I started to vote. But 16% of a turnout, that's still like historically low. But there's an update to that. You had some sources to that we did a quick research.
According to the Secretary of State's office, as of right now, it's at 31%.
And that's what the mail-in
turnout statewide. And that's not great. It's lower than most gubernatorial primary years. In 2018, the final turnout was 37.5%. We're 31. And what's significant there is that so many changes were made to the election laws to try to increase turnout. I mean, everything from ballot drop boxes to mailing a ballot to every voter, no postage required to send it back. Multiple counties under the Voters' Choice Act, which have vote centers that are more convenient than your local polling place. Supposedly, you can go anywhere in the county and vote at any of the vote centers. You can register to vote the same day, all of that. And yet, with all of those changes, we're at 31% compared to last primary of 4 years ago, which was 37.5%. And the one before that, in 2014, the final turnout was 25%. And then the two primary elections before that were 33%. So we're 31. So all the changes we made did not help the turnout.
Yeah, unless it's because they're still technically counting this far removed from the primary. That has a lot to do with, I think it was it this year that universal mail-in voting became like the standard, like it's from here on out, it's a thing. You don't have to ask for it. Okay.
That's right.
I just think it's making people lazier. It's like, no, it can wait. It can wait. I'm one of those that say, look, it's easy. Just one election day, vote in person, voter ID. That's you address anyone having any concerns about our elections. You address did they vote? They were there. They showed their ID and they voted in person. I think that's the best thing that I can do. I heard you on one of your recent episodes. Your experience, I think it was Agoura Hills, where you went to the voting center. You were dropping off a ballot.
Yes. I filled it out in the car because I'll tell you why, because I wanted to know how the ballot tracks system was working. You know, you can sign up at the Secretary of State's office to have them tell you when your ballot is received and counted. And I thought, well, if I vote on the machine, I don't get that notification. So I took my mail ballot. I was in the parking lot outside the vote center and I filled out my mail ballot and I sealed it up and I signed it and I walked it in. And there was nobody there except for 6 people who were working the polls. There were no voters. And one of the poll workers jumped up and said, "A voter!" He was so excited. And he helped me walk to the black plastic box where I could drop it off. He said, "Here, let me just check and see if it's okay." And then he took it from me and he looked at it. He said, "It's perfect." And then he helped me push it into the slot, 6 poll workers to help me drop off my mail ballot. You know, that's a lot of money that the County of Los Angeles is spending for these vote centers. And I really am not sure that this is necessary or advisable.
It's like what they set them up like days before election day, and I think
11 days. They open 11 days. Some of them open 3 days before, and some of them open 11 days before.
And maybe in Orange County, in my case, it was 3 days before. So I did vote. I think 2 days earlier. One election I did it where I did do a drop off because I was curious. And I think I did mail that one and not do a drop off in person. This last time I dropped one off in person. I think both my wife and I went over and dropped off in person. Walked into the center downtown Anaheim. Nobody's in there except the ones that are working. A lot of booths set up. I'm like, I wonder how much they're getting paid. That's what I kept wondering.
And they are getting paid. They're not volunteers. They are getting paid as they should. And but you have to, as a taxpayer, you have to pay for finding and setting up these locations, and you have to pay people to be there. And we're also paying to mail the ballots out, and we're paying to mail the ballots back. And the processing time for mail ballots is much higher than for precinct ballots. Because, you know, the system used to be that everybody was verified when they came in or when they requested an absentee ballot. That was a verification stage of the process. Well, now if you mail in the ballot, the verification is in the county offices when they receive it. And it takes longer. It takes longer to They run them through a scanner. They check them with software to see if the signature matches the one on record. I don't know how accurate that is, but
Yeah.
let's assume it's 100% accurate. It still takes time to
Yeah.
do that. And then every ballot has to, it has to be fed through a counting machine there. And it's just more processing. And then all of the provisional ballots and the conditional ballots where people have to register same day and then it's not automatically counted. It has to be verified in some way. That takes longer. All of this takes longer. In a county of like Los Angeles, there are 5.6 million registered voters. That's a lot of paper.
Yeah.
And many of those people who are on the rolls are not living here any longer or are not living any longer. And they're still on the rolls. So there's a lot of ballots out there that shouldn't be voted or can't be voted.
I noticed that when people had to wait in line to vote, they complain about those wait lines, but they want to go vote. But now it's like, well, you just mail it in. You have 11 days to do it, or even longer, or whatever. And they still don't do it. It's like, is it maybe that psychological thing? It's like, well, it can't wait. That's what I keep thinking.
It could be partly that they mail the ballots out a month ahead. And people look at it and say, oh, is there an election? And then it's weeks later, you're going to get your sample ballot booklet or your city measures or your state voter guide. These all come at different times, usually after the ballots. This year, I got my state booklet first, then the ballot, then the county, then the city. And they all came just weeks apart. So there is this period of time where you think, well, I haven't looked at the candidates yet, and I haven't seen the campaign, and there's going to be more mail that's sent and more commercials, and the editorial endorsements aren't out by May 9th this year. And there's just a lot, and people put it aside, I think, and then they forget about it. So yeah, I think you might be right that it's not helpful.
And I also believe that it has a lot to do with I've been told never ask someone for their age, so I'm not going to ask you. But I'm assuming that especially based on the Zoom call that I was a part of, the way I heard everyone speak, that's not the way at least my generation votes. Because to them, if it's not in front of their eyes on social media, it's not happening. The amount of traction that a lot of these candidates were getting on social media was just like off the charts. And then the disappointing results with the primaries, like, dude, almost none of you guys went to go vote. What's going on here? And then we see the demographics of who did go vote. I think it was the primarily were over 65 or 55 years and older. Wait, but they're not the ones that are actively engaging on social media, giving the like, putting a comment, sharing it or whatever to people that are not even in the state, that has no effect on our elections. But the point is that this metaverse, it doesn't translate to the real world.
That's been my experience. I agree with you. That's what I've seen since I've been following politics or working in it very closely. The people who are online don't vote. The people who are voting are not online. I mean, to generalize it, 31% voter turnout. That's a lot of people who are registered to vote and did not vote. And that's not even counting all the people who are not registered to vote, who could be registered if they wanted to. Right. So if you really want to make a difference in politics, the best thing you can do is go out and register new voters. That gets everybody's attention, and turn out voters that you know. If you want to be organized, if you want to make a difference, pick out a small election where you can really see the impact, whether it's a tax measure that's on the ballot, or it's a school board seat, or it's a county supervisor. Pick out a relatively, not a statewide election, pick out an election in your area and make a concerted effort to get people to turn out to vote on one side or the other. Pick the side that needs to win to make things better, and turn out voters for that in significant numbers, because that's where it can change. You don't need new political parties. You don't need to overthrow the whole system with ranked choice voting or some other big reform like that. You just need to get people to register and vote in their elections. The mayor's race in Los Angeles, I don't think they've got 400,000 votes counted yet in that. And there's 4 million people who live in the city of Los Angeles. And that's 10% of the population that's deciding the mayor's race. So there's a lot of people out there who should be involved in something that's important to the future of their lives,
Yeah.
and they don't think it is, or they don't think it matters, or they don't think it can make a difference. But it will make a difference if you get organized and you get people voting. It will scare the politicians. Then you can call them up and you can say, we're registering X number of voters, we're turning out X number of voters, we're harvesting the ballots from X number of voters, and you're toast if you don't return my phone call by 5 o'clock. Your phone will ring at 4:55 and they will call you back, because turning out the vote makes a difference in politics. There's an awful lot of people who benefit from the status quo. They don't want you to vote. They don't want you to get involved. They don't want you to run for office. They don't want you anywhere near the process,
They don't
because
want
they
you to know what
benefit.
you're doing.
Right. They benefit from having it just the way it is. But you don't. So
Yeah.
you have to get involved.